Hey, g'day, it's Matt here from Matt Carve. So we are going to be looking at undercuts today, and I'm going to demonstrate on this flower here. Now it's got several undercuts that I want to show you. It's got this one under here, which is quite a big undercut, then the ones under the petals, and then the one under that little bit in the middle. They're all done slightly different, so I'm going to show you what burrs I use and how I use those burrs to make those undercuts. Okay, so let's look at the biggest undercut first, and that is the one underneath the petal, and the burr that I use for that is the Kutzall fine taper burr. So I find this burr really nice to use for undercuts. It's got a nice kind of like pointed end. You can sort of see me there, I'm kind of dragging it through as opposed to sort of pointing it in at a right angle. I sort of like drag it along underneath. Now don't go too far underneath the petals, because what could happen is the petal would become fragile. So just be aware of how thin that petal's going. And you can sort of like in those corners sort of like point it in like that and go a little bit deeper. So once I've been through, sometimes I'll just use the side of the burr to sort of like blend back that background into sort of like the underneath of those petals. Now when it comes to making the petals look thin, you got to be aware that you don't want to sort of like make it really thin, because then it will become fragile. So what I do is I'll go from the underneath and I will try and round the underneath, so it's sort of like in a bit of a curve. So the very end is thin, but it's still got the support underneath that wood of the curve, if you get what I mean. Next we're going to have a look at really thin undercuts, and what I've found with these is the T-shaped burrs are really good for this. So I'm using the petal as an example, but you might be looking at doing something that's sort of different to this. Say let's have a look at this eagle here. You can sort of see I've gone around the whole eagle and gone a really thin cut around it, and that makes it just kind of separate from the background. And when I'm sort of like showing you how to do these cuts, and you'll notice a lot in my carvings that I do lots of little passes. I tend not to go in really aggressively, and this is just because it's sort of like you have a lot more control, and also when you're putting in smaller parts like this, you're less likely to slip if you're just taking a little bit off at a time. And if you're taking little bits off at a time, you're less likely to burn the wood as well. So you can sort of see there I'm kind of pulling the Dremel back up, and that's sort of like using the upper side of that burr to sort of bring that petal to be a little bit thinner. And you can also push down on the burr to sort of like flatten the area out as well. And you can sort of see here that I'm pushing down the burr onto the wood, and that is using the underside to sort of flatten out the background, just so it sort of like blends in a little bit more. Now I've changed to a slightly bigger T-shaped burr, just because you have a little bit more control sometimes when you're pushing down on the burr. And you can see there I am using the upper side of that burr now to pull onto the underside of the petal, just to make it a little bit thinner. And for the final part of this video, I am going to show you how I put in the undercut underneath this circle part in the middle. Now I'm just sort of like going and doing a few tiny little details with this Dremel wheel point burr. This is really nice for sort of like those finishing detail kind of touches, but I kind of use this burr also to sort of put a undercut underneath that part there. And you can sort of see me, I'm sort of just dragging it through and sort of continuing on that sort of line where I just make multiple passes and just a little bit off at it time. And then I swapped over to this burr just to show you it's really, when it comes to undercuts, it's about what burr can fit under something. And I'm using that burr also, and this burr is a Dremel cutter burr. I'm also using it to put in the lines that go out for those kind of parts that go into the petal. And that's a really nice burr. It's not great for sort of like the initial part of getting rid of everything. And we'll go back to a diamond burr here. This is one of the master carver diamond burrs. So you can sort of see me, I'm dragging that one through as well. What's nice about this one is it's really fine tip at the end, so you're going to be doing really fine details with it. And I'd love to give a big shout out to all my members and the membership. They continually support the channel with a small fee each month, and they get extra videos and sort of like behind the scenes on what I am up to, and maybe some more little detailed kind of videos on these kind of things. So big thanks to them, and hey, thank you for watching the channel as well, and we will see you next time.